I think that a lot of people fail not because they're bad entrepreneurs, because they set the wrong expectations and they quit too soon. How do I architect the rest of my life so I can stay in the game long enough?
Scott Clary has built and led global sales teams, scaled startups, and Fortune 500 revenue lines, and then pivoted to create a media empire.
The jobs are not as reliable as they used to be. The playbook that worked for my parents and my grandparents, it is not going to give you the same life.
He hosts the Top 10 Business Podcast, Success Story, publishes a newsletter read by over 300,000 people, and runs On My Patch, a transdermal vitamin company. In this episode, we go beyond conventional success stories.
At the end of the day, all business is human to human, right? If somebody trusts you, sees you online, and then they jump onto a call with you, it's going to be much easier to convince them.
And it took me 2 years till that voice became loud enough and I could not just ignore it anymore. The more you know, the more the unknown grows. I am Jitesh Vaswani, your host, and together, let's take this journey beyond the known. You did mention Ottawa, right? So you grew up in Ottawa? Mm-hmm. And you started, your career building sales and marketing teams. Is that correct?
Yeah, very, very early on. I was born in Toronto, but moved very early because my family was, my dad was all government. And Ottawa is like the DC of Canada, it's the capital of Canada, so all government. My mom took some time off from work, but then she went back and then she worked for universities. So I always joke that they are the most risk-adverse family you could ever possibly find. And for some reason, we can talk about sort of my views on sort of traditional 9 to 5 and W2 and why I don't think it serves people the same way it served like my parents and my grandparents. Mm-hmm. And some of these thoughts is what really pushed me to do things differently, sort of take more risk. And you mentioned I started my career in sales and marketing.
Right.
For me, at the time, risk was not working for the government, not going into law, working in tech, but not like starting a company. Like just working in tech was a complete 180.
Right.
But I think that moving away from what I knew and what my parents knew and constantly trying to not reinvent myself, but just do things that I was incredibly uncomfortable doing, but felt like that would be better for my future and almost future-proofing myself by learning new skills, jumping into new industries, taking on new things that my parents have never done their entire life. That's been like a constant theme across my entire life.
That's so cool. And like, so you said you started taking risks. You got into the tech sector, you said?
I got into tech. I worked for, it is tech. It's not sexy tech. I started in telecom, which is just like a Verizon or an AT&T. But yes, it's more tech than working in government. It's more tech than going to law school.
So why leave the 9 to 5 and why start your own journey?
Yeah. So at the time, that was still a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I think that there was one company in particular. It was another telecom company, and they did software and hardware. But that company was acquired by private equity. I was working for that company. And I saw, I knew the founder. It was a founder-owned, 100% owned by the founder. I saw him build it from about 1990 up until when it was acquired at, 2016-ish, whatever that year was. And I saw the money that he made on that exit. I saw the work that he put in. I also saw what kind of leader he was.
Right.
There was a lot of things that I admired about him. It was for sure, like the exit was great. That's nice to have this, he had this huge wire and this sort of this culmination of years of hard work finally coming to an end and selling his company to private equity. And I sort of saw that happen in real time. But also the way he thought about everything just seemed different than when I worked for managers or directors or VPs in corporate. For example, most people don't have pensions anymore.
Right.
Not like they used to. A lot of private industry used to give pensions. Now they don't. Now government does.
Oh, I didn't even know that private industry
very much so.
Okay.
Very much so. Now it doesn't exist anymore because it's very expensive.
Right.
What a good pension used to be is if you worked for, your whole career, 55, they would take the average, say, of your 5 best years. Say you make 100K at some point for 5 years in a row. That's what my dad has. And they would pay you 70% of that 100K until the day that you die when you retired at 55.
Wow.
Meaning from 55 to whenever, you're making 70K a year.
That's very generous, I think.
Very generous. Yeah. It doesn't really exist anymore.
Right.
So he understood that private companies don't really pay pensions like they used to. So what he would do is he would actually teach his employees how to invest. And he'd teach them about the S&P 500. He'd teach them about different portfolios, high risk, low risk, ETFs, like all these different investment options to basically create wealth for yourself. So not only did he think like an entrepreneur within his company, across the board, he just thought differently than what I was raised with. Like I was not raised learning about how to invest in any kind of high risk, low risk, anything, right? And I admire that. And I just understood that the way that he thought about building a business, that's the way that he approached almost everything in life. He just dove deep into things that I think the average person doesn't understand. I mean, our traditional education system doesn't teach entrepreneurship, doesn't teach how to build wealth, doesn't teach how to invest, doesn't teach how to do any of these things. And I just saw him, and I'm like, he just took a step, built something himself, and that mindset of building and constantly upskilling and constantly learning, he's applied that to every area of his life. And he also passes that on to people that work for him. And I was like, that's a great model. That's a great model for how to be successful. And I think that there's been many points in my life that have been eye-opening, but just the way he approached life and success, financial success, there's other versions of success, but that's how he approached financial success. That made me want to emulate that mindset. And I think that pushed me towards entrepreneurship and doing my own thing, but also just pushed me towards, upskilling across every area of my life, learning how to invest, learning how to build a company from scratch, learning all the skill sets that both of those things require.
Right.
And then like fast forward to today, that's sort of just been the path that I've been on ever since. And now my current 9 to 5, my current job is a media company.
Right.
I'm a podcast host.
Yes.
But on top of that, I've built a brand around myself across all the different podcasts that I've built. I have one main one, but I've tried other ones. Some work, some haven't. I've done well over 1,000 episodes. The main podcast is over 50 million downloads now. And I've turned it into a small little media company, which is my version of entrepreneurship. It's not the only one that I've had, but it's the one that I'm working on right now. And that was, I guess, the inflection point was that, that exposure to that owner.
So you mentioned, what was the year when you actually quit your 9 to 5 and start your entrepreneurship journey?
When that company was acquired, so that was like 2016-ish.
Okay.
When that company was acquired, that's when I started being an entrepreneur. Now the first I guess I quit. Like I quit and I started doing consulting work.
Right.
That's entrepreneurial. I hated it, but that was my first sort of entry into like full-time entrepreneurship. It was sales and marketing consulting for early stage startups. I was working with University of Toronto. Yeah. They have an incubator called Creative Destruction Labs, which is a great incubator for early stage pre-revenue companies. Some of those companies it was me and 2 other partners. We were doing consulting for those companies. We just ate what we killed. There was no salary. It was like if we close a deal and we have a nice retainer, that's what we pay ourselves. So that was the first version of entrepreneurship. It was more work than I've ever done in my life. It was brutal. I really didn't like consulting. But yeah, that was my first sort of taste of you don't have a salary coming in, you don't have a paycheck if you don't figure it out yourself.
So what are some of the similarities of like, somebody wanting to, let's say somebody has a, cushy job, comfortable job, right? And for them to be able to take that risk and take that step that, okay, come into agency and come into like their own, whatever you call it, like starting their own company. What are some of the similarities of starting a company from 2016 and now in 2025? And what are some of the differences that you think that how has the world evolved over the last few years? So what are the differences and what are the similarities you think?
Okay, so a few things. The big topic, the differences are that the barrier to entry is lower than ever before.
That's true.
So with AI, with even more just software that existed 10 years ago, with access to, work and people all around the world, your barrier to entry to build a company is zero. It doesn't take capital. All it takes is you just taking action. There's actually this great chart that shows, if you Google this, you'll find it. I'm going to make up numbers, but you'll get what I'm talking about. It shows how many people it takes to build $1 million company starting at, say, 1950.
Right.
In 1950, it would take, say 100 people to build $1 million company. And it shows over time how the amount of people required to build $1 million company decreases to the point where now it just takes one person to build $1 million company. You don't need a ton of talent. You don't need to hire a whole bunch of people. And with AI now, it's just, I would say that with AI, Now one person can build way more than just a $1 million company. Now you can start to build $5 and $10 million plus companies. And now people talk about how AI is going to create like the first solopreneur that can build, 8 and 9 figure companies. If I'm not mistaken, that there may already be some that are on that trajectory. Just somebody vibe coding some sort of Chrome extension that's just killing it, and they raise money, but ultimately they own 100%, or they own before they raise 100% equity, which is fabulous. It's incredible. So that's definitely changed, and it will continue to get easier to build. What hasn't changed is the mindset required. I think that people that grew up in the same environment I didn't come from like a difficult childhood. I came from a very comfortable childhood. And I think that that's a blessing and a curse. If you come from a difficult childhood, you have to escape that. You don't want to live that forever. If you are in this comfort zone, it's a little bit like golden handcuffs. Sometimes it's hard to really shake things up and do things differently than what your parents did. Because you're like, I think that if I just copy my parents and work a 9 to 5, I'm going to have a great life. Because that's what you grew up with. That's what I grew up with.
That's true.
I would say that people that think like that are going to be sorely mistaken, and they're going to get a huge wake-up call, because jobs are not as reliable as they used to be. So with AI, with robotics, with any industry, any category is being disrupted right now with technology. Also, cost of living has gone up exponentially in major cities, also non-major cities, and the salaries haven't kept up. So now you have jobs being replaced. We also saw it during COVID when people realized how expendable they were, and companies were laying them off, en masse. Jobs being replaced by AI. Companies are also laying off because they don't need as many people working for them because, again, AI, technology, et cetera, et cetera. And the money that you're making with a university degree at your 9 to 5 entry level, you can barely afford like a studio apartment, let alone living the life that my parents had. Keep in mind, to benchmark what my parents had, my dad bought a detached home when he was like early 20s cash in Toronto.
Wow.
Okay, that's like buying a detached home in, I don't even know, LA, Miami, New York, similar big expensive city, right? Big city. Nobody can buy a detached home cash in Toronto who's 21. Now in Toronto right now, a studio is maybe going for $600,000-$700,000. A 1-bedroom is $1 million plus.
Whoa.
But the salaries aren't great. You're still making $60,000-$70,000 entry level at a university or a high school. The playbook that worked for my parents and my grandparents, it is not going to give you the same life. So less jobs, less reliability in the 9 to 5. Also, your quality of life is down. So across the board, you have to realize that if you just think you're going to be as comfortable as your parents by doing the same thing, you are mistaken, which means you have to switch up your mindset, which means you have to be comfortable taking risk, even though based on what I just described, is it really risk if you become more entrepreneurial and you take your career and your future into your own hands? I'm not saying that everybody has to start a company, but you have to think like an entrepreneur. You have to think like you have to have agency, right? You have to take ownership over your own future, your own life. You have to have that internal locus of control, right? I happen to the world doesn't happen to me. You have to take control by learning new things, upskilling constantly, not being complacent. These are such important mindset things that everybody has to adopt, whether or not you work in a company or you are entrepreneurial, because even if you want to work in a company, if you adopt an entrepreneurial mindset, if you get laid off, you don't make enough money, whatever it is, you'll figure it out. But you won't figure it out if you joined a company, you haven't upskilled in 10 years, you haven't learned anything new, you're afraid of AI, you're afraid of et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're screwed. You're SOL. So, what's different? It's easy to become an entrepreneur. It's easy to be entrepreneurial. It's easier to learn. There's new technology, education everywhere. There's podcasts like this, there's YouTube. But what was the second part? You said like what hasn't changed?
What hasn't changed?
Yeah, that's what.
Like the mindset hasn't changed.
The mindset hasn't changed. It's just become more urgent that you adopt this mindset. 10 years ago, you could make an argument that you could live a decent life and your job wouldn't be disrupted. I don't think that's the case anymore.
What industries do you think? So I see that happening, like, with the help of AI, like, there are a lot of solopreneurs coming up, the work has become easier and people are becoming more and more dispensable. Now, are there any careers that you think, would be the last to go away?
Well, I guess
just a crazy thought experiment.
Anything that's not like information worker,
right?
Information worker, like entry level, that will be replaced quite easily,
right?
And already is,
right?
I don't think that AI has completely replicated creativity yet.
Yes.
So creativity, not complete strategy, but interpretation of strategy across multiple business units.
Mm-hmm.
So leadership will still be there for now. Even if we look at ChatGPT, its latest update, it's 5, right?
Yeah.
It's just 5, yes, because Claude is at 4.1
right.
and GPT is 5. 5 was not exponentially better.
Right.
So if we look at, for example, asking it to come up with, some sort of strategy or some sort of creative output, it's like you can tell it's not going to be replacing anybody
right.
in the next at least 6 months. I don't know what the next year brings. But I would say that, yeah, so very creative jobs that require sort of understanding how an idea plays out across multiple business units or in multiple scenarios, and sort of taking all these disparate ideas and combining them into one strategy. That job will not be replaced yet. Obviously, like physical labor won't be replaced anytime soon, but the marketing engine behind physical labor, or the administrative tasks behind physical labor, the accounting, the bookkeeping, the outreach to customers to some degree, that stuff will a percentage of it will start to be replaced by AI, but there will still be somebody who has to sort of be behind the screen. I think that this is very cliche, but they say like AI is not going to replace your job. Your job's going to be replaced by somebody who learns how to use AI. You've heard this many times. This is the truth. Like somebody who knows how to use AI will be the one running outbound sales to your customer for the service worker that's not going to be replaced anytime soon. Somebody who understands AI is going to be the one who's putting in the prompts, that is creating great ideas for your social media strategy, right? Jason Calacanis has said, though, that in the next, I think, 2 to 3 years, a lot of labor jobs will be replaced by robotics.
That's true.
Not AI. Brett Adcock, he has an incredible company called Figure AI. I think they actually have robots in plants right now. I think they just closed a deal with BMW for robots replacing people on their assembly line.
Wow.
I say that like physical labor won't be replaced with AI, but it could be replaced with robotics sometime soon. But the point is, this is sort of reiterating what my belief is you have to like stay up and up on emerging tech. You have to upskill yourself constantly. You have to learn how to use AI to do your job better, more efficiently, whatever it is. And I would say that everybody at some point should feel comfortable jumping ship from their company and starting their own thing if it comes to that. If it gets to that. Everybody should feel comfortable saying, hey, I have a skill set. I know how to build a business. I've lived in this industry for 15 years. I've learned everything there is if I want to go out and just build something from scratch. I don't have to do it, but if it ever comes to it, I should be able to find a way to make money for myself.
So that's at the level of the mindset, right?
Yes.
Like that's the mindset we need to have. And then if somebody is, let's say, going to start a company right now in 2025, AI being the top skill that I think everybody should train themselves in. But what are your other 2 skills? Like what would be your top 3? AI being one of them.
AI is one for
that
sure.
everybody needs
Sales.
to absolutely learn. Sales. Okay.
1,000% sales.
Yeah.
AI, sales, and communication. I would say that being able to communicate, but sales and communication do go
kind
hand
of
in hand
together.
to a degree.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a cop-out, but the reason why I say communication is because sometimes people interpret sales as just selling to a customer. True sales, which people may actually describe as communication, is being able to communicate your vision, get your team, get your investors, get your peers on board with whatever it is you're trying to accomplish in your business. So like strong communication, oral and written, I think is super key for any entrepreneur.
Right.
Because if you have this great vision and you have the skill set, but you cannot get anybody else to understand what you're trying to do or get them to understand what they have to do to help you, you will never scale.
Yeah.
yes, sometimes I say that is called selling because you're selling the vision, the dream, the initiative, the project, whatever to the people within the company.
Yeah.
But regardless, AI, sales, communication, I think these are the most important skills.
And I think like, to your point, we're constantly enrolling people in one thing or another. Relationship is an enrollment. You want what you want for dinner? It's an enrollment, right?
You want your kids to eat their vegetables.
It's an enrollment, right?
Exactly.
Like, so even though you're not selling, but I think, like you said, communication is a key part of, we're constantly doing that in any form or,
For the audience, I'll throw it back to you. What else do you think I'm missing that would be a good skill set for an entrepreneur?
No, I think that's true. Like AI, sales, maybe marketing and sales kind of go hand in hand.
I was thinking marketing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this sounds like a cop out. But these are very important things.
These are very important
things. If you understand how to sell, you should also understand how to market. But I mean, you should not classify marketing as inherently different than sales. They like sales and marketing do go hand in hand. If you can understand how to speak to a customer and you can understand their pain point, you can understand how your product solves that pain point, that knowledge should also inform your website, your email copy, your social media posts. Like it's no different. If you think marketing and sales are different from each other, you will never be successful at either.
Yeah. What do you think about building a personal brand? I think that would kind of...
Yeah, that would be a skill set for sure. It's not required, but it's definitely useful. I think that personal brand is huge because throughout history, people generally resonate with corporations. They resonate with people.
Right.
And at the end of the day, all business is human to human. Doesn't matter if you're B2C, B2B, doesn't matter what you're selling. You are one human solving a problem for another human. I think that just becomes easier if people know who you are before you engage with the customer, right? If somebody trusts you, sees you online, and then they jump onto a call with you, it's going to be much easier to convince them because you don't have to build that trust.
Right.
The reason why personal brand is important outside of like trust building is because if you're selling anything to anyone, depending on how expensive the product is, usually for more expensive products, for cheaper ones, you'll need a little bit less, but say like 7 to 15 different touch points. Touch points can be email, social media, one of their friends told them about your product. They consume your content on Instagram. They go to a webinar you're hosting. They go to an event you're hosting. It can be a cold DM that you send them. Like touch points can be anything, but if you can hit 7 to 15 different touch points before they even jump on a call when you're trying to sell a product to them, it's more likely that they're going to close much quicker. So the velocity of the sale is going to increase, meaning like you don't have to spend 6 months trying to close them on a deal. You can close them in a week because they already know who you are. So what a personal brand does is if your CEO, your founder, or some sort of spokesperson or employee for the company has a personal brand and the customer's always seeing that person speak about things and it's like, yeah, they just hit home, like what they're saying totally resonates with me. By the time it comes to buy, like they already trust you. They've already been exposed, forget 7 to 15 different times, maybe they've been exposed 50 times, right? So if somebody is a fan of Scott and I'm selling them a product, they've read my newsletter, listened to 100 podcast episodes, it's going to be very easy for me to close them on a product or service than if they've never heard about me before in their life. So yes, the personal brand. And also, again, personal brand, think about it like a business. Realize that it's not expensive or time-consuming or costly. There's tools right now that make it very easy for you to at least start recording, creating content, scripting with any of the generative chat tools. You can edit stuff with
now
Focus,
AI apps,
Submagic.
Yeah,
you can actually fix up audio with Adobe. Like there's so many tools for personal brand. It's just, again, personal brand is a business. What is the business trying to accomplish? Who's the audience that I want to attract? What's the minimum viable product I can put out? And then market it, which with, again, all these AI tools makes it very easy.
Hey, a quick pause. If you're listening to this and thinking, I need more peace in my day, more clarity in my mind, then I'll really encourage you to check out The Art of Living. The Art of Living offers a technique called Sky Breath Meditation, used by CEOs, pro athletes, and high performers around the world to recharge their energy, clear that mental fog, and reset the nervous system in minutes. They offer programs both online and in person. It is science-backed and it works. Head to artofliving.org to learn more. Was that kind of like your intention? When did you pivot from, let's say, consultancy to building your own media company? When did that switch happen from 2016 onwards?
A theme in my life has always been future-proofing myself. So whatever's happening next, I want to make sure that it doesn't sort of take me by surprise. Okay. That's sort of how I've went from being a child of somebody who had really risk-adverse, safe jobs, safe in air quotes, but safe jobs, to somebody who is like 100% entrepreneur. So basically, after consulting, I didn't like it. At one point, I joined a company as co-founder and CRO, software company, full-time. That company was about to be acquired. And when that company was in talks to be acquired, that's when I started my personal brand, because I knew that I had nothing on the other side of that acquisition. And I didn't want to start from, it was actually a unique scenario because the company that acquired us, they had an LOI in place about a year before they actually pulled the trigger. And we had started integrating our product into their sales teams, like full integration before, like a try before you buy.
Right.
So I knew for a year that this acquisition was happening. Unless we royally screwed it up completely, which was not the case. Like I knew it was happening, right? They had already committed, basically.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I have a year to figure out what I'm going to do next.
Yeah.
And of course, after an exit, you kind of work for that company for a little bit, but it's not going to be in perpetuity. So, I'm a marketer. I was a student of the Gary V's of the world.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Gary V has a massive brand. And whenever he wants to launch a new company or do anything, he already has millions of eyeballs.
Right.
So why not build the brand ahead of time? Not sure what I want to do with it in the future.
Right.
But if I have it, I can launch a new company. I can bring that audience to go work for somebody. I could do consulting work. I'll have just this huge source of leads. And that was really that was the reason why I started the personal brand. The podcast in particular, everything I do, there's a thought behind it, if you haven't noticed, but
I've definitely noticed. I mean, I don't know if people are watching, like they're feeling what I'm feeling right now. I feel like I'm getting a masterclass from no, really, like I'm learning quite a lot for my own journey.
I think that if you're going to do something, I'll tell you why I started the podcast in a second, but if you're going to do something, do it purposefully.
Right.
Don't just know what your North Star is and lean into that. Don't just do something to do it. Whatever it is, it should accomplish an objective. And the objective may change over time. That's no problem. But don't just do it. Don't just start posting on social media and not know why you're posting.
Right.
At least have some objective.
Right.
Say I want to, make $100,000 selling something through my personal brand, or I want to use it to start a company, or I want to use it so that I can quit the company that I'm working at. Whatever it is, have some sort of objective. I think that some people just feel like they have to jump on a bandwagon for social media, for personal brand, and they don't actually know why they're doing it. The reason I started a podcast was because of another belief that I have that served me well, which is if I want to make anything successful, mentally, when I'm starting it, I want to say, I'm going to commit 10 years of my life to this thing. The reason why I do that is it sets expectations. So I'm not setting expectations that it's going to be an overnight success, because I know that doesn't exist.
Right.
Also, when I'm doing that, I'm not only setting sort of mental expectations so I don't get disappointed when it doesn't work out right away, but I also am setting up expectations for what my life is going to look like. Meaning, if I'm going to commit to something for 10 years and I'm expecting to take 10 years to succeed, which it may take 6, it may take 7, it may take 11, but the point is I'm framing it as a 10-year goal. That means I'm not going to quit my job because I'm not going to have money coming in from this thing in 6 months from now.
That's true.
So I'm going to find a way to build it while I still can pay off my mortgage or my lease or put food on the table for my family.
Right.
I think that a lot of people fail not because they're bad entrepreneurs, because they set the wrong expectations and they quit too soon. This is why a 10-year goal forces you to organize your life, saying, it'll take me 10 years to be successful at this thing. How do I architect the rest of my life so I can stay in the game long enough? The reason why I started the podcast was because if I'm going to create any media or build a personal brand, I have to find a way to do it for 10 years before it's going to become quote unquote successful. That's what I believe. So I want to do something I enjoy. I don't want to do something that I'm going to have to hate myself and wake up and dance on TikTok, and I hate dancing on TikTok. So this is why I chose a podcast, because I enjoy it.
Yeah. No, I think same here. Same here.
Do it.
I feel like
you can do it forever. That's what it takes.
I wanted to do a podcast 2 years ago. It took me 2 years to start this podcast because internally in my heart, I wanted it so much. And that, anytime we want to do something, there's this subconscious voice which is telling you what's the right thing to do for you.
Yeah.
It's prompting you, this is what you need to do. This is what you want to do. For me, it was starting a podcast. And it took me 2 years till that voice became loud enough and I could not just ignore it anymore. And I was like, I need to start this because this is my, like, I feel like this is my purpose. I enjoy doing it so much that there's no other option but for me to start it.
I mean, if you're sitting on it for 2 years and you can't like get it out of your head, that's a really good indication that you have to start.
Yeah. So you mentioned something very interesting, future-proofing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What are you future-proofing yourself now? Like, what is Scott thinking about? What's going to happen 10 years from now? What are you future-proofing yourself now? Yeah.
Now I think about AI nonstop.
Okay.
I think about how I use it to improve my workflow already.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I mean, I just stay up to date on everything that's releasing, everything that's actually useful, because in the hype of AI, there's a lot of noise.
Right.
There's a lot of people that spend a lot of time trying to use AI when ultimately it's not actually doing the task as efficiently as if they just did it themselves. So I think that it's important to sort of, sift through a lot of the things that we can use and make sure that the things that we use are not adding more stress or more anxiety into our company. So AI for sure. But I'm also in the creator economy, and I am a creator, and I think about, okay, how do I leverage tools to not just improve my process, but how does this sort of impact the creator economy as a whole? Meaning now I see AI generated like influencers.
Yeah.
And I see some of them closing brand deals.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, okay, well, and I'm sure if people scroll on Instagram enough, they're going to find them, right? So now AI is creating these influencers that say these like really ridiculous, like almost like funny things. And like I look at the comments and some people don't even realize that they're AI. It's like very obvious when you're in it, but like some people don't understand it. But some of these accounts, especially on Instagram with these AI, video generated influencers, they're closing brand deals, they're making money. So I'm like, should I do something in that space? Should I? I don't want to do it. I would do it myself at the start, because whenever I take something new on, I always try and learn it to a rudimentary degree myself. But then like, should I hire somebody, like sort of train them up on prompt generation and like start a whole bunch of AI influencer brands that now sort of rest under my media company, kind of like an agency would with a whole bunch of talent. That's what I'm interested about. So it's not just the tools to improve the work that I'm doing already, but how do the tools dramatically change the category or the industry that I'm in? Because I don't ever want to be replaced or redundant. And I think that, like, listen, if you just spend some of the time that you already spend just wasting it, just doing bullshit in your life, like watching Netflix or whatever, and you're just sort of like watching YouTube videos, reading news about what's up and coming and how it's impacting your industry, you are already ahead of 99.9% of people. It doesn't take much. It moves fast, but it doesn't move that fast that you can't keep up if you just give it a little bit of your time and attention. What else am I future-proofing myself with? I think that's pretty much it right now. It's mostly just education on how my life is going to change, but also how other people's lives are going to change in terms of AI, because of course it's not like it's my core content focus, but I know that it's going to, again, as a creator in particular, I know that it's going to impact a lot of people, and a lot of people want to learn about it. So as a creator, especially in like the education space that I'm in, I like being the first person to bring somebody on or to speak about something that's going to change my audience's life, because I think that's a good place to be in as a creator. Now, not everybody has to be up and up on AI content to teach it, but if you are a creator, learn what's happening, especially in the business space, so you know who to interview, or you know what content to create, or you know like what your audience wants to hear about. Because one way to grow very quickly is when you jump on emerging trends, not as somebody who's pretending to know, I don't like that, but somebody who is saying, this is what I learned, this is very interesting, this is how it's impacting me. And when you create content like that, because millions, if not hundreds of millions, if not billions of people are searching for it, that content does very, very well. So just as like in terms of like just content performance, staying up on top of trends for any kind of creator is very important too.
It's interesting you mentioned, and again, going back to the mindset, like you were saying, like if people have time to watch Netflix,
yes,
or like whatever, like, and it's okay. I think everybody's let's say, life can look very differently, right? Like we're not judging them, but at the same time, like if they have time to do all of those things, right? They have time to educate themselves and upskill themselves. Now, what do you think are the prime reasons why everybody knows what's the right thing to do, right? Like, is it the mindset? Is it like, are they too stressed that they just don't have mental bandwidth to educate themselves? Like, what are the key drivers you think?
That's a great question. I'm gonna take a couple guesses. It's hard for me to say what someone else is going through,
Right.
because
Of course.
this is not the way that I approach life.
Yeah.
And also, I'm like, keep in mind, I'm very blessed that the same like you,
Yeah.
the people in our circle
Yeah.
are not having a tough time finding the time or energy to learn about things that are new.
Right.
This is what they live for. This is why they were successful in the
Right.
first place.
Right.
I don't think that people are too stressed. I think that it could be they are very comfortable. And I think in their subconscious, they're kind of stressed about what's coming in terms of technology, but it may not be real for them yet.
Yeah.
So it becomes a tomorrow problem.
Yeah.
I don't think there's too many smart, educated, successful people that are actively saying, I shouldn't learn about AI.
Right. That's true.
But if you're killing it at work and you're busy after work and your company hasn't laid anyone off yet and you hear about it in the news, but like it really hasn't impacted your day in the life, it's tough. It's very tough for you to like say, okay, I not only give lip service to the idea that AI is going to shake up my job and potentially like at some point they're going to get rid of me, but I actually genuinely believe it. Because if you believe it to the point where you're going to study it, like that's a very scary place to be in.
Yeah.
Like if you really open yourself up to the potential of AI, I think that and maybe it is stress actually, as I'm saying it. Maybe it is stress. Maybe because when you fully like embrace it,
Yeah.
you start to realize, oh shit.
I sometimes
you
feel
don't
left
want
behind.
that moment.
Yeah.
So you almost like, you just kind of keep pushing it back and you keep pushing
Right.
it off and you
Right,
keep living your life and you keep distracting yourself. And I think that, like, I understand why you want to distract yourself because life is good, but I just think that that's a very dangerous mindset to adopt.
Are people too late?
No.
Is it too late?
It's never too late. It's never too late. It can't be too late. I mean, if you learn now, if you dive into it, like I said, you're already ahead. Most people are not implementing
even
AI
thinking.
in their company
That's
right
true.
now, or they're just using it tangentially. They're using it for like writing emails,
Yeah.
but they're not really caring that much about it yet.
Right.
We roll in a circle where everybody's talking about it all the time.
Yep.
That is not the majority of people. We're still very early. I mean, we're still early in a lot of different things, but AI for sure. So I would say that it is definitely not too late. But like, don't like if you're working, obviously it's not too late because you still have a job. But like, don't wait until you get laid off
Yeah.
and then you haven't again upskilled yourself in 30 years, and you've had one job for 30 years, and you're not ready to retire yet. And nobody's hiring you because, again, you don't know shit.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
know shit about what's relevant in 2025 and beyond. Like, don't wait until that moment.
Yeah.
That moment will sting, right? That moment
Yeah.
when nobody wants to pay you anymore because, again, you stopped caring about what's new a long time ago. It's still not too late. You could figure it out, but it's a lot harder to figure it out when you don't have an income coming in or when you're stressed about just like your day in the life. So don't wait until then. Like, start learning now, start upskilling now, but adopt this mindset always. It's never like I think that the days of getting a career and just hanging out in that company for your entire career, then retiring, like they're almost over. And I'm sure if you looked at data, it would probably prove
say-
this,
yeah,
right? Like the
yeah.
average tenure
Yeah.
of an employee. So when data and trends are going a certain way, like don't be ignorant to data.
Right.
And if you don't believe Scott on this podcast, like go look it up yourself. I'm sure average tenure at a company has dropped significantly
Yeah.
over the past 20 years.
Yeah.
So understand that just because it hasn't happened to you yet doesn't mean it won't. And then act accordingly.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. Now, let's say if somebody is now ready. Like they have the right mindset. They're like, okay, I'm gonna either invest in myself or I'm gonna invest my money. Let's say if Scott was starting out right now and you had $10,000 at your disposal, how would you make your first million from this 10,000 in current day and age, like 2025? How would you approach it? Like what percentage would you use to educate yourself, or
Well, I wouldn't
what
even
would you
need
do?
the 10,000.
Okay.
I wouldn't need the 10,000. The education is free.
Yes.
Education is free. For the product I would launch, I would find, I mean, there's a couple different ways to build a big company, but I would find an industry that has massive inefficiencies and apply technology to it. So it could be, again, it could be any industry where they haven't sort of modernized in the past 15, 20 years. It could be building out like a lawn services company where the local guy in that town is tracking everything with like physical pen and paper. Apply a little bit of tech to that, you can build yourself a great business. Of course, you have to learn the business fundamentals and you have to learn the industry, but that's a great place to start, right? You don't need a lot of capital to get that going. You could also do the same thing in a variety of different industries that are just outdated. Apply AI, apply tech, apply software. You don't even have to apply AI. You can still just apply technology to some industries and still make a good business for yourself.
Some industries are that far behind.
A lot of industries are still that far behind.
Yeah.
The other thing you can do is you can look for a company that has been built in a different part of the world and reverse engineer that company wherever you are. That's another great way to start. And I think that, listen, I mean, you can say you can use $10,000 to, I don't know, get a website up and running.
Yeah.
But I don't even think you need that much money, because if you have a product or service, you understand the pain point from your customer, you either are innovating in like a legacy industry, or you're just taking something that's already worked and you're doing it in your local area. If you understand a little bit about sales and marketing, if you understand a little bit about how to create great content that gets organic reach, and you can use great content to test your idea, see if it resonates with the audience that you're going to be serving, you don't need a lot of money to get this thing off the ground. Unless it is some incredibly complex, never done before software that you're trying to build, AI, whatever. But in most cases, like you can validate the market, you can validate if your customers want what you're building before you spend $1.
Right.
To make it a little bit more concrete, so you understand sort of my idea, Buffer, they're a software now, they're a massive company. They do like scheduling and posting on social media. They didn't spend $1 building out an actual software. When they started, they basically pushed people to a landing page with a Google type form, asking people what product and what feature set they would want and how much they would pay for it. So they didn't even have to risk a lot of capital before they knew exactly what that person was going to pay for. That's how they took their product to market. Another way, if you don't want to do a software product, and if you, in that particular case, without raising money, you go to the Y Combinator co-founder matching tool. You're the product sales marketing person. Go find a technical co-founder, vest the equity, and then you're still starting a product, getting it built from scratch with really no money spent.
Right.
Another way, there's a couple different ways to do this.
These are great.
Another way, if you want to start a company and you don't want to have a technical co-founder, you don't want to build software, you don't want to disrupt a legacy industry, but you still don't want to spend money, take your skill set and start selling it. Whatever you've done your whole career, sales, marketing, whatever, you will be able to charge a premium compared to what a company will pay you for that same skill set. Go on Upwork, go on TopTal, go on Fiverr, start marketing yourself, start selling yourself with whatever skill set, sales, marketing, copywriting, financial management, CPA, legal help, whatever it is that you do, start selling that skill set on a marketplace. And then once you get a little bit of traction, you serve some customers, take that money, document your day in the life process, start to hire some help. All of a sudden you built yourself a little company with literally zero capital, just monetizing what you already know. So there's a few different ways, but really I'm a big fan of not raising money to start something. And the reason why, not raising money and not spending a lot of money. The reason why is because if you spend a lot of money before you have product market fit, it's not going to be $10,000. It's going to be a lot more than that. any dev shop building a software product, it's going to cost you like $50,000 or $100,000 to get an MVP minimum. So know that $10,000 really doesn't mean anything. It's kind of like you have to figure out how to build it without it, or figure out how to raise a lot more. But if you raise a lot more, a lot of first-time founders don't really understand what they're giving away when they raise money for a huge equity chunk in their company right away. And then there's the added pressure of now having this clock where investors want to hit an ROI within a certain time period. So I would rather you find a way to build a company from scratch with no money than to raise money and put extra pressure on yourself, or to just blow a whole bunch of your own money without actually validating something.
And it also kind of speaks to, like, I feel like my parents were kind of similar to what you were describing your parents. They were very risk averse, right? In the sense, they were very like, we never talked about investing even. Like,
No,
stocks was not even a topic that we would even talk about, like even investing in the market or whatever.
Think that, like, it's the thing, right? You gotta like get yourself out of your early childhood conditioning.
Right.
As soon as possible.
Yeah.
So my parents had friends that there was this massive company called Nortel, and Nortel went bankrupt. And their friends lost all of their retirement that were invested in Nortel stocks. So when that happens, well, now your parents are more risk adverse towards investing. Not that they don't invest, but like when your friends lose their whole life savings.
That's the data point they have.
That's the data point.
Yeah.
And so they don't really teach you that much about investing, because in their mind, it's a super high risk activity. They don't want you to get hurt.
Right.
So you have to understand that, yes, investing comes with a lot of risk. But I mean, if we look at like how people make true wealth, you can't do it by saving in a checking account where your money depreciates.
That's true.
And your bank's actually making money off of the money that you just have sitting there.
Yeah.
So I think that one lived experience, and a lot of our parents' lived experience, was based on a certain time and a certain place where they could retire without investing. Keep in mind, bringing it full circle, my dad, he made more than this over his career, but for argument's sake and easy money or easy numbers, he's making 70 grand until the day that he dies. So does he have to worry about investing compared to someone else who's living paycheck to paycheck with no pension? No. The answer is he definitely doesn't, because that person, that 20-some-year-old person who is living paycheck to paycheck, who's not saving anything, at 55, they have nothing coming to them.
Yeah.
They don't have 70 grand. They have nothing.
Yeah.
So they got to figure out the investment game.
Yeah.
So whatever informed your parents' life, understand that that was a different time, different place, different game that they were playing, and they played it well. But you have to learn how to play your game today, this year, with whatever reality you're facing. And the reality is, life is not as easy for a lot of people as it was for our parents. So play the game that you are living in right now. Don't play the game your grandparents and parents played.
But I think there's like some good things there, right? Like when you were talking about, for example, don't raise capital, right? Like you can start companies without even spending a lot of money. Like how much do you think even that mindset of avoiding too much risk too soon is helping you in that case, right?
There's lessons you can learn from everyone.
Yeah.
But I think that too many people take a lesson and they don't understand, okay, I want to take a bit of this lesson and maybe apply it to a bit of my life. But I think what people do, instead of having that sort of thoughtful interpretation of the lesson, they just take it as an absolute belief. Yeah. And they just assume the lesson in its entirety. And they don't understand that their particular set of circumstances is not the same as the person who went through that lesson. So I think that just having like a more balanced view of the information that you're receiving, a more nuanced view, I think is very important. But that's what this extends far beyond business, right? If you just take what one person says as gospel, like you're going to have a very limited view of the world. Yeah. This happens in religion, politics, relationships, everything.
Everywhere.
Right? Everywhere. One person says something, that's your whole worldview. You have to create your own worldview based on your research, your understanding, input that you get from your parents, input that you get from your friends, your peers, your spouse, all of it. And then think critically about, what does this actually mean for me?
Right. No, I think that's great advice. Now, you have advised on a lot of startups, right? Like, what's like one common mistake that you think startup founders do? Besides raising money too soon.
That's an easy one because it stresses them out so much.
Right.
Stresses them out like crazy.
Yeah.
One thing that founders do, they think their idea is better than it is. So they're building a product for themselves without validating it for the market. So the most successful entrepreneurs, they're not the Stanford dropouts like the Zuckerbergs of the world. They are people that lived in an industry for 20 or 30, and they're also not like 25 years old. They're people that lived in an industry their entire career, and they saw a problem in their industry that nobody else outside the industry would ever solve, and they built a company to solve that problem. I think too many people think that entrepreneurship has to be building something that is super sexy, and they don't really understand the industry, but they're an outsider coming in saying, I know that this product's going to help X, Y, Z. And they just make the assumption that it's going to be useful without actually validating or working in an industry or speaking to the people that will actually use it. They buy into the idea before they validate it. And sometimes, if they're great salespeople, they can raise money on an idea that hasn't even been proven. And I think that that's probably, those are probably the worst stories because that's when, you see the Adam Newmans of and like the WeWorks and the other failed startups, right? Like, and the valuations just blow up to infinity.
Right.
And come crashing down because you just built a product in your mind that was great. You convinced other people it was great, but you didn't convince the only person that actually matters, which is the customer.
Consumer. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that that's where it starts. Find a way to validate. The buffer story I mentioned, before they wrote a line of code, they had people submitting form entries saying exactly what they would want, how much they would pay for it, what features they would be looking for. It doesn't have to be complicated or expensive, but just find a way to validate before you put energy and your money and your time and also other people's money and energy and time into this idea if you don't actually know if anybody wants to buy it. It doesn't matter. Like, the true test of an entrepreneur is like, is somebody going to take out a credit card and like pay for whatever it is you're selling?
Exactly.
That's all that matters.
Exactly. And I think that's why in today's digital world, I think having a strong personal brand or a strong media presence also helps to get to that result faster. Like if you're doing a survey or if you're trying to understand what your consumer actually wants, like to get to that faster, how else would you form a network? I mean, you can go to networking events in person. You can start,
it's a total hack,
right?
Because if you have 1 million people, and I've done this before, this is actually killed some ideas that I've wanted to start. I've gone to my audience and said, "Hey, would you buy this?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, "Okay." So I'm not going to go build it. Like it's very, so that's why, I mentioned why I started the personal brand was to sort of future-proof myself and to build an audience to see what I could do next.
Yeah.
That's it. Now, if you don't have it, it doesn't matter. You still got to find a way to validate. It doesn't mean just because you don't have a personal brand, you can skip that step. But of course, if you do build it, you do build that brand, you do build a little bit of an audience. It doesn't have to be a huge one.
Yeah.
But you build that audience, use them. And don't use them in like a derogatory way. Use them in the way like, let them be crowdsourced education for the business that you want to build. And the beautiful thing about a personal brand is that it costs $0 to build.
Yeah.
It's literally just a little bit of your time, less now than when I started, again, with AI tools.
Yeah.
A little bit of your time, and you just feeling comfortable stepping in front of a camera and having an opinion on something that you already have an opinion about and voicing that opinion to the world.
Right.
And you do that over a 4 or 5 year period, you will have enough people that will be able to inform the next business that you want to start because they'll give you feedback. They trust you. They like what you put out. If you put out 3, 4, 5 years of content and you ask them for feedback on a company you want to start, they're going to give it to you.
Yeah.
They'll always give it to you. That's, I guess, another reason why you start a personal brand.
Yeah, yeah. You like within your, like on your podcast, you have had thousands of guests, right? What would you say is like the most common thing that you see, mindset wise and even otherwise that, that all the successful people have? Like now success can be like financial or, some people can
Let's say like
decide
in a domain. Like what leads to like success in their domain?
In their domain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's a good point too. Like success means a lot, and I
Yes.
don't think success is just financial.
Exactly.
I know that you feel the same way, and I think that that's something that you interview enough people, you realize that, okay, you've made a lot of money, but like, is the rest of your life falling apart?
Yeah.
It's not great, right?
Yeah.
So the two things that lead to sort of domain success, mastery, financial success would be agency and obsession. So agency meaning like I take ownership over my outcomes. I take ownership over everything that happens in my life. And I also have the belief that I can do it. Actually, three things: agency, obsession, and delusion. So again, that's what agency is. You believe you can actually do it. Obsession means there will be a period of your life, if you want to be exceptionally successful at one thing, that will be unbalanced. Not a single entrepreneur I know had complete balance, meaning they only worked 40 hours a week for their entire career. There are seasons to life. There are seasons to life when you're in build mode where you're going to have no balance. Then you have to understand there should be a season of life where you stop that and you have a family if you want to do that. But know that there will be obsession means that parts of your life will be unbalanced, but that is what it takes to build anything incredibly meaningful. The beautiful thing is if you love what you're doing, it doesn't really actually feel like your life is unbalanced. It just feels like you're spending all your time on things that you actually enjoy. And then I'd say delusion is the third thing, because entrepreneurship and building a company from scratch is inherently like illogical. Like it doesn't make sense for somebody to want to do this. In fact, I think there's some data around this. Most entrepreneurs are to a degree neurodivergent. They have to be to believe in building something that has never existed before.
Yeah.
So I think that a little bit of delusion, whether or not it comes part of the package or whether or not it's something that you sort of work towards and to create confidence and delusion, I think that a good way to do that, if you don't have that internally, is to pay attention to how you've won across your whole career to give you that self-confidence. But there has to be a little bit of delusion baked into what you're doing, because logically, you would never start this.
Yeah.
The amount of work, energy, time, attention, money, stress, nobody wants to go through. Like these are not fun emotions.
Right.
So you have to have a little bit of delusion to jump into being an entrepreneur. But on the other side of jumping in, it'll be the best experience you'll ever have.
Yeah.
And the worst at the same time, but the good outweighs the bad.
Yeah. So agency, obsession, and delusion. Awesome. Well, on that powerful note, Scott, we'll call this a conversation. Thank you so much. I feel like I'm very lucky that I get to do this. And, I'm very grateful to be sitting across from you, learning so much within this 1 hour almost of our conversation.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care.
Good. Perfect.
Hey, a quick pause. I want to share a resource I've personally trusted for years. And when it comes to living well, not just in moments of meditation or reflection, but in everyday life, what we put into our bodies matters deeply. And that is why I love Shri Shri Tattva. It's a brand rooted in authentic Ayurveda, from daily wellness supplements to natural personal care. All crafted with ancient wisdom and modern purity. No shortcuts, no hypes, just products that support real well-being from the inside out. For me, it's all about alignment between what I practice and what I teach and how I live. And Shri Shri Tattva helps me bring some of that care into my daily routine. You can explore their offerings at shrishritattvausa.com. I highly recommend checking them out. The link is also in my description below. I want to share something I've been personally loving. Shankara's Ghee Sutra is one of those rare products where ancient wisdom meets modern skincare. It's crafted from ghee that's churned 10,000 times. Yes, 10,000. Blended with Ayurvedic botanicals like hibiscus, bamboo, and it penetrates deep, up to 7 layers, to nourish, hydrate, and bring your skin back to life. No harsh chemicals, no surface level fixes, just deep, authentic care from the inside out, like everything we talk about on this show. You can check it out at shankara.com